Good morning, Internet fans. Ryan Perry here. Today is Thursday, March 3rd. It is Internet Marketing Thursday with Virginie Dorn at Business Website Center. Good morning, Virginie. How are you?
Good morning, Ryan. I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Unfortunately, your audio is still a little bit staticky, and you had said that you saw a notice from Google Hangouts that they are working on audio issues.
Yes, indeed. There was a message that they'll be upgrading the system due to audio problem and very shortly. So hopefully by next week, because this is getting a bit frustrating.
It's very frustrating, and it doesn't, unfortunately, I feel that it affects the quality of the information that we're having, and it affects our brand quality. But we are pleased that Google Hangouts is working on this, and they're going to resolve it so that we don't look like stuttering robots down the road. But today we're going to talk about website design, specifically background colors, and that Google, or not Google, I think it was really Apple, sent a trend a number of years ago with the pure white background, kind of really made everything pop, very professional, very clean. Because we were even talking, I don't know, a couple months ago that as developers and all these tools became available, we started adding shooting stars and all this crazy and motion art, and we kind of got this distraction going on where we really lost the message of what the website design was supposed to be, because we had all these cool tools. And I think Apple really kind of went through the industry a curveball in a very good way when they went with this very simplistic white website.
Correct. And we love the white background style. I think it's very modern, fresh. It does bring focus on the message and the text and the images throughout the pages. But saying this, there could be too much of a good thing. I mean, I love chocolate, but more chocolate I eat, the more time I have to spend at the gym. So lately what we've seen from site owners is their request to see, well, can I do something beside the white background? All my competitors are doing it on their website. I want to stand apart. Is there some texture I can add and color? So suddenly we're now reconsidering the old ways where we did add a bit of something in the background. Maybe not as obnoxious as the shooting stars you were mentioning, but something more subtle, nonetheless very effective in rendering a very specific message you want your visitors to have when they first visit your website.
Yeah, and let's talk about the importance of a background, because the background, I mean, it's a very large space, or it can be a very large space. A lot of websites are going full width. I know you're going to talk about the banner images. Some of them are doing full page video. But with a lot of websites, if they have constraints and they're not going full width, you've got a lot of real estate on the left and right, especially with large monitors, where that color or that image, whatever it may be, can have a very subtle but strong, what's the word I want? It's going to impact your your psychology, the psychographics or whatever it is of the brain. It can be a very positive thing, or it can be a very negative thing, depending on what you do.
Correct. So you have to use them carefully and put some thought process behind it when you make that selection. Do you go with a white background, something a little bit more colorful? Truly, there's about 6 to 7 types of background. We have the white, really oftentimes used. Nowadays, most new websites have a white background. You can have colors, different shades of colors. You can have some texturing. You could have a full-size video, full-size image, and even a slider. All can be used as a background. Today, I'd like to focus on colors and texturing and how just some subtle changes can really change the feel of the site. And we all about the feeling, because again, you're not able to make that eye-to-eye contact with your customers or prospect. It's all done digitally. So sometimes just making them feel good and making them feel they are at the right place when visiting your website can make a whole difference in the sales process. So what I like to do is actually I'm going to go to a website which I love. It's called subtlepatterns.com. It's a free website where you can download complementary backgrounds then repeat endlessly. And what it means is that background is actually a smaller image, then put next to each other 1,000 times looks like a uniform background on your website. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the screen size of your client's monitor. So we'll go ahead and do that.
All right. And the one thing you want to be careful while she's bringing that page up is that you use the right image, because if you just take a picture or something and repeat it 1,000 times on a website, it's 99.9% of the time it's going to be very distracting. Let's put it, I think that's the most polite way of putting it.
Correct. So let's talk about texture. I love texture. They can actually be quite useful in softening the message of the website. And they can make it more gentle, more approachable. So for instance, if you're a psychotherapist, you want to be more approachable online. You have different goals if you're an industrial manufacturer, of course. So that's especially true in order to be soft. It will be softer tones, patterns with rounded edges, and even earthy texture. So with several patterns, you can actually download for free here, but you can also preview what it will look like. So as you can see here, those are some waves. This is a little bit of a linen pattern. You can have some soft rounded edges. They have a lot of them, and they even have different ways you can do paper, for instance, different types of paper grade. But even if you're looking at it, this is a light gray. So if you want to be modern and want to use with the soft gray scale, you can add a bit of a texture. I'm not sure if it's quite visible on the screen share. But you can see on the right, this is the applied pattern. If I click here, you can see that pattern as well. It's very subtle, but nonetheless, it does affect how people feel about the page when they arrive there.
All right, very interesting. And I'm assuming you can actually change the color values too.
Absolutely. And if you have a great graphic designer, I can make some slight changes to it. Now, this is for softening a website, but you can also make it more industrial, more professional by using lines, geometrical objects, or grayscale coloring. So for instance, if I use this one, you can see it has a little bit of a grid. Again, very angular. There's so many choices. You could spend hours looking, but each of them render that different feeling. And you can choose, I mean, it's not the only website, but this one is very easy. So, I mean, you can go gray, black, you know, something very industrial. So if you're an architect and you want to show accuracy, so angular lines usually work best. Now, you can also, of course, use solid colors, and they can be used in the background to support your branding efforts. So for instance, if your Coca-Cola, red is your color, you might want to use your background color as red from time to time to make a bold statement. So in such case, you might have to make the lettering white or light in the color, or create box sections for your text within the colored background. If I want, so I'm going to continue here. I'm going to screen share because there's no other way to better illustrate what we're talking about. A repeating background can also be fun and interesting if your website is a little bit quirky and you want to stand apart from everybody else. With Photoshop, you can create an object or even an icon or simple illustration that repeats indefinitely and be used as a background. So for instance, here, there's a little monkey type thing that repeats. Might not be for your company, but as you can imagine, if you're in a creative type of industry, or you have a mascot or a caricature you use frequently for your branding and advertising, you could use it, extract it from your regular marketing and make it a background to just make, again, your website fun and interesting. Now, Ryan, how do you feel about using that type of, I mean, this is really a departure from standard background here when you lose patterns like this.
That would not go well with me personally, but that's just a personal decision. But I think it's all about, you know, who your target audience is. And me, I'm not a big fan of patterns. I would rather have something that's more solid. It doesn't necessarily have to be white, or if it is going to be a pattern, it's going to be very, very subtle, almost non-distinguishable.
And I do agree with you. That is also my personal style. But as you mentioned, if your target audience wants something fun and quirky and really out of the box, you do have to consider those fun patterns because they might be just perfect for what you're doing. I mean, some companies like MailChimp, they have a little chimp throughout their website. You know, the chimpanzee has different looks and positions. That's how they roll. So for them, it could work. Now, other things to consider would be the texture and the colors, even subtle, can tie together your entire website design and its content. And what I would say it could harmonize the experience of your visitors. So they go from page to page and it feels right somehow. And let me take a look. I want to show you something. We're working on this tiny little website for a great resort nearby our location. And we're working on different options for that. As you can see, it has an image as a background, which are pines where they are. And another option would be no image, so more of an infinity look, which is very modern. And then it has white background, but also we try to break it down. So in the footer, you can see the background is brown, because that's one of their colors, but also has some linen pattern there. And if you want to look at the image, that's what it is. It's that image with some brown on top of it.
Very interesting.
Now, other people, they want a bit of both, and I think that's always a great option. So we're working also on this website. We use a lot of white, but from time to time, we soften up with, again, a linen type pattern and some beige, because that is their color, back to white. And now this is a solid beige colors without the pattern, just again to break up the sections so it's not a fully white background. So there is that hybrid version where you can use pattern, just as you can see on their menu, we use that same repeated pattern. And again, this is a great nonprofit organization. They want to soften their approach, but nonetheless, they want to be fresh and modern. So we're trying to find that fine balance between tie-dye t-shirt and the pure white sterile environment.
I love that analogy, that, you know, a balance between the tie-dye t-shirt and a sterile white. That's very good. And I think, yeah, I was going through the website, the Subtle Patterns website, because a lot of the texture, the subtle texture wasn't coming through on the share screen. And there's stuff like Symphony is one of them on their main page that you really don't know that there's an actual pattern there, but it is. And I think it provides a little bit of depth and detail without being distracting, which for me is important.
Yes. So again, keep it subtle, but nonetheless consider adding some slight pattern or texture and maybe some light colors in your background, and play with it and talk to your web designers. You should be open to your ideas. You should be able to present you with different options so you can experience both, you know, pure white, a little bit of coloring, a little bit of texturing, and see which one works best for your situation.
Definitely. And with that last website that you showed, you had different chunks of information, and separating them with color is a very easy way to tell people this is one piece of information, this is one piece of information, this is one piece of information.
Yes, I like doing it. I think it's very pleasing to the eye and easy for the brain as well.
All right, perfect. That is it then for today's episode of Internet Marketing Thursday. We're talking about patterns for your website background. We will be back next Thursday, same place, same computer, same time, all that good stuff. Hopefully Google will have fixed the audio problem so that you can actually hear us without thinking too hard. I think that's really what it boils down to, is I have to think when I'm listening. Any last minute comments or last second comments?
No, don't overthink it. Look at your options and have a great rest of your week.
All right, perfect. With that, that is the end of the show. Virginie, thank you much for your time. Looking forward to talking with you next week.